Hello everyone, and welcome back to our next installment of our virtual Art is Wellness videos. My name is Mallory Montgomery, and I am the art therapist for the Henry Ford Cancer Institute. Each week, I will take you on an Art for Wellness journey from the comfort of your own home using supplies you most likely already have. This week, we're going to use watercolor paints. Any watercolor paint palette will do. Watercolor is thought to help us with feelings of control and anxiety because it's a little bit hard to control watercolor paint itself. So using it can make us comfortable with those uncomfortable feelings that some things are just beyond our fingertips. Today we're going to look at a wet on wet technique, and then we will paint and then draw over top of that. Now, if you aren't native to the Great Lakes state, don't worry. You can make any template of anything you like and still apply this technique. I have already gone ahead and traced out a template of the state of Michigan, which we're going to trace. So if you would rather do something like lighthouses or a skyline, this is the skyline of Detroit, you'd still be able to do your drawing with a tracing and a template and then paint over top. At the very end, we've drawn over our tracing with a pen or with a marker. So today we're going to take a look at doing the state of Michigan. Because I'm going to use a lot of blues and greens, I'm going to draw over top of this with a lighter pencil, yellow. Just go around here and trace. It doesn't need to be perfect. We don't have to stay inside the lines when we're painting by any means. I just used scrap paper I had lying around to make my tracing. You could also print any template you wanted to and use that. Ta-da! We have our template all traced out. You'll also need some clean water to wash your brush, a paper towel to wipe on, and a brush. This is a different style of brush because it has a water chamber in it to keep my bristles wet while I work, but any brush will do, any natural or synthetic bristle, as long as it can hold water on the tip. If you are an avid oil painter, you cannot use oil painting brushes for this technique. So the first thing we're gonna do is with a clean brush, this is just stained. With a clean brush, we're going to apply water to the interior of the shape that we've traced. This is going to help our paint flow and marble and come out really lovely, a beautiful light wash. And just going around, filling it in, filling all this space inside with water, clean water, until I'm happy with it. Now, one way to check if you got all your spots is to pick the paper up, and if it's shiny, it's wet. If at any point while you're working on this, let's say you're working up here and this is still wet, and then this starts to dry out a little bit, clean your brush, apply clean water. So, to begin, I missed a spot right there on the edge. To begin, I'm going to go ahead and start selecting some colors. I'm going to really load up my brush, and then I'm going to drop in this color wherever I want to. And see how beautifully it's already flowing because we put that water on there. In between, I'm going to clean my brush, so I always have a lot of paint to start with. And maybe some green. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Right over there. And maybe some darker green. Now, we've got enough paint on here to begin to make some magic. If you pick up your paper and you begin to move it around, that water flows and picks up the pigment. If you're careful, it won't go beyond the wet edge that you've already made. You can see it stopping along that edge and gathering, because it really only wants to travel where the page is already wet. There we are. And down here in this corner, it got a little bit dry while I was painting, so the water can't spread over there, but we can help it along. Anywhere that you want to go where the water didn't quite make it that far, we can touch that up and encourage the paint to get into all those little nooks and crannies. When the watercolor is nice and light like this, it's called a wash. There's not a lot of pigment on the page. In a wash, you can still go back and really add and saturate more pigment in. And this is a great time to do that. It's still wet enough that even with that new addition of that teal on there, we can still swirl it around and blend our colors with very little effort. You'll feel like you're cheating, but I promise you're not. There it goes. And send it down the page. Now, at any point, if your paper starts to wrinkle or you are worried about pilling, back off on your water a little bit. Isn't that neat how that all just blends right together? So beautiful. Now, while we're here with this wash, we can also add a little bit of texture. If you'd like to, you can use some spray art technique. So you're going to firmly stick your finger out there and tap. And it creates a dot effect. If you're going to switch colors, clean your brush. Now, if it gets on your table, on your workspace, or if it gets on you, all watercolor paint is water soluble. So it'll clean right up with a wet cloth. It'll come out of your clothes, it'll come off of surfaces, and it'll certainly come off of you. Now, if there's a place, maybe you want to blend the colors together outside of your shape, well, this is your canvas. You can go right on ahead and do that. Let those places and those colors explode off the page. And maybe we want a little darker splatter too. You could also turn your paper and splatter from the other side. Spread that love around. Now the next step requires us to have some patience. For this to completely dry before we can draw over top of it and outline the shape that we've just made. So while this is drying, I've already shown you the example, which we'll grab in a second, but while this is drying, your paper is starting to curl a little bit. That's normal. To stop it from curling, you're going to take it and put a paper towel over top of it and then set it under a heavy book while you are waiting for it to dry. So if we remember, when we are all said and done with these pieces, then we trace the outline that we've made with our marker. Any marker will do. You could also trace it with a very heavy colored pencil. But these are so easy to do, and in just 10 minutes, we have made some really beautiful watercolor art together. And when this is all dry, I'll outline it and sign it. But for now, I'm pretty happy just to play around with the swirling watercolor effect. If you try this out, please show us pictures of the art that you've made, and thank you so much for being a part of today's video. If you have thoughts and suggestions for future episodes, please let us know. For more information on cancer support services, visit us at henryford.com/services/cancer/support. I'll see you soon for another art activity, and until then, be well.